Welcome back into the studio. This is April 2024, just slightly behind on this one, but you'll find out why soon. We are going to gather inspiration from the garden to continue to inspire our embroidery in our monthly 2024 Embroidery Garden Journal. It's Janice. Welcome into my kitchen today, and I'm just going to sort of talk you through my April embroidery entry for my year in the garden, Embroidery Garden Journal. And we are going to talk about April, the month of April. I am a little late on my video. That's because I also do a lot of art teaching and artist residencies, and that's where I've been most of the month, finishing up the school year with several different of my classes. And I will be doing a recap video of that shortly, so if you're kind of interested in a little bit of what I do when I'm not in my studio, that will be coming out soon. It's a lot of different clips to put together into something that makes sense. It was sort of a wild 6 weeks for me, hence being a little bit behind on my garden journal here, but I did get April finished. I worked a lot on it actually in the classroom. One of my residencies was with a local high school, and they were working on learning hand stitching and doing embroidery of their own. So I actually took my garden journal in with me to show them different things that they could do and ways that they could represent things that they found in nature and try different stitches. So April was one of those things that I worked on with them. I practiced the Looped Bullion Knot, which I still need to practice because I'm not super happy with how they turned out. I do have a few extra threads in the center of my little violets here, but I overall am pretty pleased with it, being my first time trying that stitch. I added a little bumblebee because this month was really when the bees started coming back to our garden. We have been doing projects outside as well around our home, and there's one section where we are fixing up a piece of fence and we have lots of bumblebees in there, so to me it seemed a lot to represent the month for me. So that is why I included that. I don't know if I will do that with every month. Like I said, with the snowflakes, sometimes if I have extra space or I feel like that was really something that was going on heavily in the garden and should be represented, then I will add it in. It's just kind of player's choice, you know? But my favorite thing that I decided to do this month is actually have this little piece of the violet leaf peeking through to the next month and kind of like breaking the division there. All of the other ones I've kept like very strictly in their wedge, but I love this little detail here where I kind of allowed it to go somewhat into the next space. I don't know if I will continue to do that or not. Like I said, each month I'm just sort of coming up with a different tiny little composition in its wedge as I work my way around and allowing myself to play and have fun with it. But I do think that this is the time of the year here as we move around to the rest of the wheel and capture all of those summer months where a lot of things do overlap. There isn't like a single thing out there in the garden that's alive. There's so many things. The abundance can at times be overwhelming, and if you're a gardener, I'm sure that you know that. So I think in a way it does represent the garden a lot. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe different months will not lend themselves to it. I guess we'll just have to see and let it evolve. But that's kind of the fun of this entire composition here and this practice is letting it evolve, trying new things, growing. So that is sort of there. And then I have all of the detail of how I made everything in this video as well. So you can see some of the close-up times that I was stitching. I stitched a little bit on my porch on really nice days, and again I did some in the classroom, so I only have a few snippets of some of the progress. But for the leaves I just used a very standard satin stitch and a satin stitch for my bumblebee, and then a little of the fly stitch there up in his wings, and then straight stitching the split stitch here and stem stitch on the violets themselves, and I already mentioned the bullion knot. I also was inspired this month by this book that I bought for my residency for the kids to explore, Foolproof Flower Embroidery by Jennifer Clouston. It is really cool. It has so many different stitch diagrams in there, as well as things about doing ribbon embroidery, which I do have a little silk ribbon, so that could be fun. Also about adding beads, which was very applicable to what we worked on. And what I really want to try next is something like this, where she makes the tufts. So doing a little tufting, maybe to represent some dandelions or different fluffy, maybe when my bachelor buttons come out, maybe I'll do that for bachelor buttons. I'm not sure if that was in my original plan. I tried to plan out my entire year, what I would focus on each month, like thinking through what was blooming. I am still allowing myself a chance to modify that as I go and what catches my eye, because I thought my roses would be out here at the end of May, but they are not out yet, so maybe I'll push those to June and just swap some ideas around. But as far as like, you can do dandelions anytime, but and I don't know if there's something you want to highlight about being in your garden. It depends on if you feel like they're a flower or a weed. But I didn't want to put yellow right next to yellow. Here is what I have so far: January, February, March, April. I will be working on May next. I realize I'm still a little bit behind. It's going to take me some time to get caught up here, and I have a big show coming up at the end of the month, a vendor event for all of Memorial Day weekend, which seems kind of like a bad choice now, but it's too late. I'm in it. It'll be great. I'm sure it'll be fun, but thinking about getting ready for that is overwhelming. So I will get to this as soon as I can, and then hopefully we'll get caught back up and be in a good spot for June. I plan to do a fair amount of resting this summer. I only have a couple of workshops and summer camps this summer, so I should have lots of time to focus back in my studio on projects. So thank you so much for staying tuned, joining in. I hope that you are having fun either creating this project or just following along with it. So here is a little bit more of the specifics of what I did.
Okay, so as I mentioned, I got this Foolproof embroidery flower book for my class, but also for personal use, obviously. And I am going to use that to attempt the looped bullion stitch, which I had never tried before, to capture this violet. And I'm going to do it sort of down low on my wedge here because violets grow very low to the ground. And I'm also thinking at this point as well, I might want to add like a little bumblebee, which were very prevalent in our garden. We've been working on the fence. You can kind of see through my porch railing there. We're making a little dog enclosure area, and there are lots of bumblebees out there. So I felt like that might be a fun thing to highlight. I had to refer back to the book many, many times, and I will say that my first few attempts, I spare you the agony of how much I struggled to get these going. It really was hard for me to complete all of the knots and twists and turns and getting my hand positioned correctly. So my first one turns out sort of more like a knot than like a flower. You can see there. It kind of looks like maybe a little tiny, not quite opened flower, but that was not really the look that I was aiming for. So I am going to keep going. Luckily, I plan to do several of the violets because they typically grow in clusters. So I will say that wrapping and then getting your needle through all of those twists without undoing your hard work was for sure the biggest struggle for me here on this. So I think it's just a matter of, like a lot of stitches, practicing and sort of figuring out how to manipulate the yarn or the thread as you go. I finally started to get the knack of it. I do have like a little extra tail sort of inside the loop. But in this instance, I think that it worked because it kind of filled in the petal a little bit without me having to put an extra stitch. I don't think that's how it's supposed to be though, but it did capture the depth and dimension of the violet really well. So I only did 3 on the bottom. As you can see, there are 3 petals on the bottom of my violet and then 2 on the top. And my second attempt definitely turned out better. And my third and final attempt turned out the best. Obviously, I kept getting better. And I did decide to add a little tacking stitch to hold them from sticking up too much and also to prevent them from sort of like twisting a little bit more. And just kind of like hold them in the placement of the violet that I wanted. And I overall am really, really pleased with how these turned out, considering that it was my first attempt. I definitely feel that they represent the violet well. And again, it's like just trying new things and realizing that I'm not going to be perfect at them, and that's okay. And then here are my final 3 little violet flowers placed on my canvas. And then I am going to create several petals because violets have those sort of heart-shaped petals that curve in on themselves. So I am just going to quickly create an outline of one of the petals, and then I go back and I fill it in with a series of satin stitches. I do end up using a few different colors of floss for my fill stitches, and a lot of these I actually do once I get in the classroom during my residency. So you'll only kind of see the outline going in here, which I create this like sort of central rib that divides different colors and also helps me like divide up where my satin stitch starts and stops. And then I complete a lot of the rest of it in class in front of my students, which was really nice because I demonstrated the satin stitch for them on a piece that I was working on. And I think it was a really nice and meaningful experience. The kids could watch me working on something and sort of practicing what I preached. I did point out to them that I didn't really like my first couple of bullion knots, and that even I practice different stitches and try to get better all the time, and then it just takes, that's what it takes to get better at something. It's just practicing and being okay with making mistakes and not liking what you do the first time. So here you can see in the classroom how far I got while they were working. And I guess overall for the month, my tips are: make the best of the time that you have and enjoy practicing new stitches. Use a stitch guide to help you, and, just learn from mistakes and allow spontaneity. I love that little overlapping petal that kind of breaks the wedge between April and May and really represents to me a lot of the abundance that's going on in the garden. So thank you for joining me for April. Please like and subscribe. May will be out soon. Have a great day.